Remington, right?
Don't be shy if
I
there's
remember that
questions.
last night. All right, is this a Q&A?
Yeah, Q&A, this is part of it.
I'm very prepared. Now look, because I got Bell's palsy, my face is paralyzed. I've already answered this about 1,000 times on Twitter. Even though I'm not smiling, I'm not mad at anybody. I'm not angry. I'm not bitter. I'm very happy. Because I woke up this morning and I was alive.
All right.
Every day, wake up. Profound philosophy exposed to everyone. That's probably what you're going to get out of this deal. If you wake up every morning, you got a pretty good day going for you. But I'm not angry with the Bell's palsy. 3 times I've had this facial paralysis, and on both sides of my face, and I just don't have any smile ability. So you say, well, he was here, but well, he looked like he was in a bad mood. I always. So go ahead, questions? Yes, sir.
Yeah, we've been watching some of the old Mid-South DVDs that we picked up from Micah Watts and that group. And as you are starting, one week you're commentating with Boyd Pierce, one week you're ringside interviewing, one week you're ring announcing. I know you've spoken a little bit about your work as a referee and how that kind of helped you appreciate the business. Do you think that's a proper, I guess the best way to train a new announcer is kind of put them through everything, or do more of a very formulaic type of
Well, it's a good question. I was very lucky that I got in the business in '74 when the territories were still had a heartbeat. Some of them were done really well in the '70s, and some weren't, like any other business. They're well run and marketed and so forth. They have a chance of being successful. So I got in the business, a unique situation. I promoted a couple of spot shows as a college student, and that's where I was quote unquote discovered as a marketer, as a maybe wannabe promoter. Not a promoter like just where you'd have towns, you'd market, you'd promote towns. So that's how I was hired by Bill Watts. And his partner was Leroy McGurk, and Leroy lost his sight, I think about 51. He lost one eye back when he was a kid. Then he went to Oklahoma A&M, was a national champion. Then he was a junior heavyweight champion forever. When it really had credibility, and he was a traveling champion, you know, like the Lopez's of that era, the heavyweight guys. Anyway, Leroy couldn't see, so I became Leroy's driver. So I also took notes for him in his meetings, booking meetings. So I didn't know it, but I was really getting a good education because I was exposed to what this was kind of like the inside, and I was, I hadn't been even smartened up. So I did a lot of jobs. The reason I did the refereeing, I made $125 a week my first job, all in. No, I was an independent contractor. So like being a plumber or carpenter, I made $125. I needed to make more money to stay in the business. So I volunteered for all these extra gigs to make more money. Refereeing, I wanted to learn to be a referee so I could have another skill. I still promoted events. I got a little piece of small, let me tell you. Spot shows, right? The Kiwanis, the JCs, the rodeo grounds. So I had a chance to do a lot of different things, and I think it helped me to get to where I finally ended up. Because I was around some real strong leaders in Watts. The chaos of WCW wasn't exactly ideal, but it was a good experience for me. I was exposed to a lot of different things. But I did ring announcing when he needed a ring announcer. I could do that. When he needed someone to sit in, my first broadcast partner was McGurk, who was blind. So for me to be able to be effective as a TV guy at that time, I almost had to be a radio guy on television. So I over-explained things so he could get it, because he couldn't see it to process it. But if you gave him a good enough verbal description, he could visualize it. So I was just trying to wear as many hats, no pun intended, as I could, so I could sustain my existence. I wasn't a star athlete. I wasn't related to anybody in the promotion. I wasn't, I had no ties, zero, other than Dale McGurk and Watts working with me at my college for those 2 shows. That's how, and when I got there, I knew nobody. So that was, I think it helped me a lot doing a lot of different things. That's not the way the guys are going to be trained now. Where they're going to WWE for announcers. The sad part is that none of these new announcers, and I might be in the last one that's still quasi-working, that was trained in the territory days. I kind of ended that run of all the great guys that were in the territory preceding me that I used to listen to. So now they're going to be, I want to try to help them learn. I want to teach them up. I want to coach them up. But I can't teach them to feel. I can't teach them to have the passion and the emotion and the love of the game. And I just tell them the exact words I used on Wednesday night. We were preparing for our taping on Thursday in Orlando, the Performance Center opening, was that you guys can't look at this as a 9-to-5 job. To succeed in our business, it has to, unfortunately, you can take this any way you want, become your life. It will consume you. And you can allow it to consume you in a negative way and lash back at it or be bitter at it, numb your senses in any form that you think you need to, which is don't advise, or you can embrace it. So that's kind of where we are now. They're getting guys that have broadcasting degrees, and have a little bit of experience, some of them. Because I get asked all the time, how do you become a wrestling announcer? Well, you got to get experience. You got to get a reel, not get real. You got to get a reel so that you can turn it. How do you become a newsman? How do you become a sportscaster? You go get experience somehow, some way, at a grunt job and get a reel. That's your resume. And you turn it in, and they look at all the other reels, and if they like you, they bring you in an audition.
Quick follow-up, as you were talking about background and promoting spot shows and stuff, a couple things come to mind. The Super Date at the Superdome and this Eddie Gilbert giving away a picture of himself. Were you involved in either of those?
Yeah. That last one wasn't real creative, but it was a heel. He was a heel.
Right,
So.
right. It was funny.
My biggest promotion that I did working for Bill was I created the first relationship with Popeye's Chicken that they ever had in the business. And the owner at the time who created and owned Popeye's, a gentleman named Al Copeland. And he sold Popeye's for, I don't know, millions and millions of dollars to a big corporation. But Al Copeland was a big fan. So I met with the Popeye's people, and we did a deal where with a coupon, I was talking about this last night at the bar, I still don't remember what it was. They did forced distribution, so it was a great marketing tool. If you went through a drive-through at any Popeyes in Louisiana or South Texas or Mississippi, you got a coupon in your bag. If you came in and got an order at the counter, you got a coupon on your tray. And those coupons let you go to Ticketmaster and use that coupon and buy, let's say, for argument's sake, a $10 ticket. I think it was either 5 or 10. About 10 seems to ring a bell now. In the upper deck of the Superdome. So we sold, I don't know how much what the tennis was that night, but at the time, this is not back in the mid-'80s. At the time, it was probably, Bill's count. He's not here, so I can talk about it. Bill's count to the boys was probably around 20,000. I've always contended there was between 30,000 and 40,000 people. But the promoter always gets the first count. But it was very successful. So the other thing that I did with Bill in a marketing sense is that Bill had never used radio advertising in his whole career. And most promoters back in that era did not use radio advertising. And I had a little radio background selling radio, did a little on their work. So I said, we'll go to these radio stations so we can make it, Rock 97 night. And we'll make an ad buy. They'll match our ad buy with promotional spots. We'll let their morning DJ star, their big baby face that works in the mornings, come welcome the crowd, get him in the ring. And then if they've got retail partners that are big radio boosters, the biggest advertisers, now we got to link to them. And so instead of them spending money for us, all they needed to do is to tag their spots. So they use their existing budget and just include us in your ads. So we started doing those deals, and the houses all started coming up, because till then, the only way that anyone knew that we were coming to town was the occasional newspaper ad, and of course the 1 hour TV show that had the local promos in it. If you missed that 1 hour in the days before DVR and all that stuff, you missed that 1 hour, you're SOL, right? So this got us out there and got us some more day parts. And radio stations then started hearing successes of other radio stations, and they could take credit for this huge crowd. So we went from having average shows to having big shows by promoting them and using some of those techniques. I remember some of the promoters back in those days when Watson put me up in his office, you know, have him on speakerphone, and he said, "Hey, I heard you had a big house in some club." "Yeah, we did a radio promotion," and they just lambasted me about how stupid that was, because you're spending money you don't need to spend, because their theory was, well, if the fans aren't watching that 1 hour show, they're not interested. And I thought that was about as stupid. That's one of the reasons some of the territories went out of business, because they had stodgy, old, stuck in the mud promoters who didn't want to change and move forward. So then I got the idea, well, we can do the same thing. Our TV shows were syndicated. I mean, they're in the local markets, right? Well, they were getting great ratings. So, and we had just real good time slots. I moved us from moving in the afternoon, where we're getting moved around, like on an ABC because of football, college football would have different starting times. The one thing you don't want is to be where your viewers got to go find you.
Right.
So we negotiated a deal to go on at 10:30 Central Time on Saturday night. And our lead-in was the local news. Not bad. It upgraded our clientele. The diehards watched. We got new people that were still watching the news that kind of tuned in. That's why our shows always started off with a good, strong recap and a little late-breaking news. That first segment was to get you hooked on coming out of the box. Not necessarily just the match, but the information you got and what we're going to see today. Then we went into our business. So the TV station started the same thing the radio stations did. And my theory to them was, let's use your unsold inventory on our event. Again, it cost them no cash. It was unsold inventory. They're going to run a PSA or a stay tuned for, you know, Steve the Beaver or whatever. You know, so that was some of the marketing things I did with Bill that worked well back in those days. And it was my idea to do radio, WW radio. When Vince McMahon first interviewed me after I was still with WCW, but I was really trying to leave in '93. I met him in Augusta, Georgia at a TV taping, and we had a long meeting. It's the first time somebody told me he had never watched any of the taping, because we talked for 3 hours behind a building in Augusta. And obviously he was interested in what I was saying, and I wanted to work. You know, I had 2.5 years left of my contract for WCW. They made a lot of bad deals, as everybody knows, talking about money deals. Guys getting paid, did not want to work. Bad formula. So I had that same deal. I had 2.5 years left, got reassigned, taken off the air, and put into television syndication, which they violated their own agreement. They wrote the agreement. They locked me in to do certain jobs, and then they violated their own contract. So their lawyer says, well, you got us. Our guys, and the wrestling guys screwed up. They didn't like them anyway. They didn't like us. So you can have 2.5 years and not do nothing, we'll pay you. And it's brought in a bucket return. So I just got bored, and I wanted to get back in the game. So one of the ideas I had with Vince was the radio show. I still think that WWE radio will happen someday, and I still think it will be a reality. You know, a devoted WWE show once a week, or, you know, 2-hour call-in show on Sirius, or some kind of format, some satellite, maybe even in syndication. I think it will happen someday. It's not like it's being currently discussed, but I think it will occur. marketing is interesting.
Excuse me, Jim, I have to leave. Thank you very much.